Welcome to Winning in the Workplace, powered by Team Real World. I'm Maurice Velasquez, and today we're going to be covering the form on how to do performance evaluations, whether you do this on a monthly basis or you do it once a year or once or twice a year. The form itself oftentimes becomes the most difficult aspect because if the form is not a good, functional, efficient, well thought out form, or if it's too formal, then it discourages everybody from the process. Our experience has been that working with many clients, their evaluation forms, oftentimes they're very general. They purchase something from a program, they downloaded something that's too general, they can't really tailor it for themselves, and yet they try to use it, and it does becomes very unapplicable. However, we're going to use this document to impact or influence people's salaries. It's very tough to really make it worthwhile and make it feel like it was a very fair process if we don't have a good form. So make sure that you download the form that's right below. So let's go through it. First of all, the first section is the one that's called General Practices. At the very top is, at the front of the page, is the General Practices. This is where you want to put wording that should appear in your HR policy manual. If you don't have a policy manual or you don't have any policy that speaks to the evaluation process, well then consider adding some language here that should begin your policy manual, but this is where you want to put it, at the very top in the general policy section. Below that, you want to explain the steps in the process. It's a very simple step. You want to let the employee know that they're going to evaluate themselves, then they're going to be evaluated by their manager, then you're going to sit together and review it, and then of course a salary adjustment may or may not be tied to it depending on how you do your process. Some companies do their annual evaluations that are tied to salary adjustments, some don't, so go ahead and make sure that you edit here in this section in the form that we have your exact process. Don't make it a 10-step process. Make it really simple because you're trying to communicate to the employee your process on how you're going to evaluate them. Then you want to explain the next section, which is the criteria section. You want to let them know what's the criteria that they're going to be rated by. And in our form, we have a 5-step criteria or a 5-number criteria. You can use more, you can use less, depending on what you've done in the past, but you want to communicate it and make it very easy to understand. So that's what you want to cover on your first page. Now, when you go to the second page, we encourage you to also print it out in a booklet form. It's a lot more professional than stapled, but if you can't do it or rushness is a factor where you have to get this out to everybody, then go ahead and staple it, but it's a lot more professional if you do a booklet form. All right, when you're inside on the second page of the form itself, this is the evaluation form itself. So you fill out the name and information of the employee at the top and make sure that all that is clear. Now, here's the most critical part, and that's the section number 1 of technical skills. All right. Please notice that in our form, we have just a table of the different things that define this person's tasks. Now, where do we get this information from? We get this information from that person's job description. When they got hired, that's what you want to evaluate them on. You want to evaluate them on the things that they're supposed to be doing, and that should be reflected in their job description. So you take the language of the job description and you insert it into these fields and then keep your rating of 1 to 5 the same. So definitely this becomes the most important part of your evaluation form because it speaks directly to that person's job. Now here you're probably thinking, okay, so what are you saying? Are you saying that every manager has to copy and paste from their job description into this template and have a unique form for everybody that we're evaluating? The answer is yes. You want to get away from forms that are very generic, that don't really speak to my job. You're just gauging me on very general information, which misses the mark, and it doesn't seem fair. Everybody knows that you're not really talking about my job. This also makes the managers have to keep their job descriptions updated because you're going to use it for the evaluations, and you don't want to wait till you have to do an evaluation to say, gosh, I don't have this person's job description defined. Well, guess what kind of salary you're going to have to pay them because it's not clear. So it forces you to have to clarify things up front. And are you gauging and are you regularly talking to these items that define their job? That's what you want to evaluate from. So therefore, you notice we spend a lot more time on paper to focus on their technical skills. So you would rate the technical skills here, and then you would put the average of the scores down at the bottom. All right, then you go to section 3. I'm sorry, you go to page 3, and at the top you want to add particular comments about anything you said, and so you'll notice that it says comments from the employee, but also comments from the supervisor, so there's a place to do that. Then we move into section 2 of the evaluation itself, and that's the same thing, the same structure as the technical skills, but now you're talking professional skills. And we gave you, again, some common language that you use for professional skills, but you want to incorporate into this section the professional skills that are relevant to their jobs. Now, this part can very well be the same professional skills across all your departments. There's nothing wrong that says that you can't use the same professional skills standards, but feel very free that if you have, for example, if you're evaluating a person on the phone, then you want to make sure that their professional skills speak to their demeanor on the phone. However, if my job's not to be on the phone, well, then don't make any reference to the phone being on this form. Make it more applicable. You can still refer to their demeanor, but not on the phone, so it feels more like you're really evaluating me rather than making me feel like you just used a canned form to evaluate me. Nobody wants to feel that way, and unfortunately, that's the way most people feel whenever they can tell that this is a canned form. So yeah, it's a canned template for you guys, but what we're giving you is a template that you can edit and make it more personalized and make it more tailored to fit your particular employee descriptions. All right, then at the bottom of page 4, you'll notice that there's also a section there for employee feedback and a manager feedback. All right, and when you go to page 4, again, it's a real simple form. It's very powerful. Simpler is oftentimes better. This next section is additional goals and additional comments. What we do is we enter some very basic questions about that every employee wants to be asked, and oftentimes they don't have the opportunity to be asked. Things like what specific fields or what specific tasks or specific talents do you have that you feel the company's not tapping into nor making use of the fact that you know how to do this. For example, some of your employees may be tremendously good photographers, and yet you're paying an extraordinary amount of money to other vendors when you could actually save yourself money and pay them additional to do a great job, which may be a launching pad to move into a different section of the company. Now, you might think, well, do we really want that? I mean, I may lose an employee in this department to go to that department. Well, you certainly don't want to hold anybody back. And if you do find out that's their passion, guess what's going to happen a couple years anyway when they kind of go, I really just want to do the photography. Well, you could have tapped into that, and it may just turn out that they know that they're not interested. However, the knowledge of is what makes it a much more human environment, because you're having a conversation that really normally companies aren't comfortable talking about. So it allows you to have that conversation during the evaluation process. Another question is, do you feel that the current position is meeting your professional and your personal goals? If they don't want to open up about this, that's fine. But sometimes a lot of employees do want to open up and they want to be able to talk with you about that. Also, it pushes a little more of the conversation. Number 3 is list 2 to 4 ways in which your supervisor could improve your working conditions to assist you or with any additional tools or resources or change of things. Again, you're opening up for them to tell you and be real blunt with you about what it is that they need to be a better employee. Well, don't you want that? Of course you do. That's why you're downloading this form. So this is a really good, important section. And then number 4, is there any other position or role in the company that you feel you would be better at? Be open to their suggestions. Some of it may go nowhere. Some of them, they may not be interested in moving in those roles while they're with you. There's something that they might want to do years down the road, or it might turn out to be something good. I can tell you this, from my career, the way I've been able to grow in my profession was because early on, somebody asked me, hey, Maurice, you've been in technical support now for 6-7 months. What would you like to do here? And I said, well, you know what? As soon as something opens up in marketing, I would love to jump there. Well, my name was put in the hat. 5-6 months later, I was interviewed. I jumped. I was there for 2 years, and then I moved into more management positions. But what I realize now, 25 years later, is that I began to have the confidence to jump from one place to another because during my evaluation process, I was allowed to have that conversation with managers, and those managers helped me jump to other departments, and they did not let me jump to fail. They even offered me, look, you can go try over there. If within 6 weeks it doesn't work, you come right back, okay? And so what I found was a communication between the managers that was healthy and normal between companies. And so I learned early that, so that's how you do it. And it all boiled down to a form that they use where I could write my information in and have a conversation with my manager. All right, and at the bottom, the last section is where you write down the rating that the employee gave themselves and then the rating that you, the manager, are going to give them. And this is what you can then talk with your executive about, make decisions about salary, and then sit down and go over them with the form. Now, for now, we really congratulate you for joining us, for downloading this form, and take great advantage of it. Give us your feedback. If you make it better, share it with us. We'd love to hear from you. And again, thanks for joining us. My name is Maurice, Winning in the Workplace, powered by Team Real World.